Hey everyone, welcome back to the Growing Together podcast with me, Sunny Vasquez.
And me, Cesar Santos.
A podcast where we talk about everything under the sun related to growth and becoming the best version of yourself. That includes personal growth, professional growth, growth online, all of that good stuff. And as always, I think we're excited to record another episode.
Super excited, yeah. We got a little technical difficulties.
Yeah, we had some technical difficulties this morning. Yeah. It's just another day in paradise, another day, another problem. But we're working through it. It is finally, I think we mentioned it's getting a little chilly here in Vegas. Yeah. So I like it. I like the weather. It makes for I don't know, good snuggles.
No, it does. It's just you can leave your window open, and like the cool thing about it being cold outside is you just put layers on.
Yeah,
you're good to go. You don't have to worry about it being 1,000,000,000 degrees.
Yeah, I mean, if you live in Vegas, the summer is unbearable. So when it gets a little bit colder, it definitely feels nice. I know some people I work with were surprised that it gets like as cold as it does in the desert.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yeah, for sure it gets cold, and obviously we live kind of close to mountains too. Mount Charleston is about an hour away, and it just snowed on the mountain recently, so I always look forward to that. It makes me feel like we live up north. Maybe
up
north. Maybe one day we will. But with the weather cooling down, it's fall, but we're getting closer and closer to winter. I thought that today's episode could kind of align with that and the feelings that come with these seasons, with the holidays. And there's something, I don't know if you've heard of it, called seasonal depression. Have you heard of it? It's also known as SAD,
right?
Seasonal affective disorder or something like that.
SAD. Yeah, no,
have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
The Office.
From either The Office or I remember hearing about it in SpongeBob. There was like an episode where I think it was SpongeBob who had like not hay fever. It was like an episode where they were talking about him being sad, and then I was like, oh, it was just like a joke, So
joke.
It was a joke.
I know there's a joke about it, like, oh, you guys are only depressed like during the winter, because some people are depressed all year.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm depressed all year. No, but really, I think that's kind of interesting. I was reading about it online yesterday. The internet is just full of information, so obviously all of it is true. No, but I was looking at some sources, the ones that .edu, Mayo Clinic, that kind of stuff, and it's a real thing. Like this time of year, it's a lot harder for people, specifically because it gets darker sooner. It's a lot colder. But for me, when I think about it, I also think that the holidays are just an interesting time of year, because so many people have different experiences with it. Some people don't celebrate holidays, and that's okay. But some people also, in my case, I love Christmas, Thanksgiving, good food.
I love Thanksgiving. The tamales.
I don't really look at the tamales, but I love Christmas, but I also have kind of a sad memories of Christmas, because during Christmas time, a lot of the time when I was a kid, it was a very tough time of year. We were always kind of going through some financial struggles, and we were very aware of the situation that my parents were in, and it just seemed that this time of year brought a lot of problem, and sometimes as an adult, it's also really different. I don't think anybody talks about it enough, of going through the holidays as an adult, especially when you're not living close to family.
Yeah.
And I live for my mom. My mom and dad both live in separate states, but my dad lives in Texas. My mom lives in Florida. Obviously, we live in Las Vegas, and I haven't spent a holiday with them since I graduated college, and nobody really prepares you for what that's like.
They really don't. I don't even think you can really prepare for it, though, if you think about it. Like, what are you gonna train yourself to be alone or something? I don't know.
It's just, I guess even in my case, even it's just not the same as when even if you do go and spend the holidays with your family, it's just not the same as when you're a little kid. There's a certain wonder and light when you're a little kid about the holidays. And as you get older, I think it becomes a more stressful time. You're worried about getting gifts for people and wanting to make sure that they know that you care. And I think that's stressful enough. Like that's not a financial burden, I don't want to say, but it is like this thing that we normalize. Oh, I got to get gifts for everyone. And when I know this past couple years, I haven't been able to spoil like my friends or family in the way that I want to because I don't. Like I can't even spoil myself. Um, so that's kind of hard to deal with because when you're a kid, you don't realize all that goes into
Yeah.
Christmas because you're under the impression Santa's bringing me these gifts, you know?
Yeah. No, it's oh, man,
I
just
mean, what's your
yeah.
experience with Christmas? I think me and you had a very different like upbringing. So what's your experience of like the holiday seasons when you were a kid versus now?
I mean, definitely there's a huge difference now. I mean, I know when we were kids, like our parents really weren't the. I mean, they got us gifts every now and then, but nothing like, here's a electric scooter, or
Yeah.
like they would get us scooters, or like things that we could actually use, um, for school or for transportation. I remember when we were in school, I would always use my scooter to go to elementary school,
Oh.
So I would, and then if it broke, because they would break over time, things would
Yeah.
break, or we would abuse them, and like,
Kids don't take care of anything.
we would do kid things or throw them around or whatever the case was. But like, I remember us getting a foosball table. It lasted like a little bit because we left it outside, and then the water damaged it. So we
Yeah.
didn't have room for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, we left it outside, and then it got like warped. But yeah, that was a nice gift. I remember that. That was more of like a family gift because everybody would play with
Yeah.
it. But I mean, now looking back at it now, it's definitely not the same. My parents, for the most part, they love to go visit
Their
their
family.
family in Mexico during the holidays.
Yeah.
So that's like their thing because they know obviously like I only have one grandparent left, so like my mom wants to
Spend that
spend
time
that
there.
time, yeah, especially with other family who's sick and stuff. So that's more of a holiday thing that we're doing now. Maybe necessarily we're not going, but like that's what they try to do like from November through December.
I think that's something that you pointed out too is in my experience, I don't know how many other people go through this. When I was growing up, it was really just my immediate family. Like my dad didn't live with us for since I was like in fourth grade, but he would come home for Christmas every year. It was really just us though. Like we didn't have like these large celebrations with like other family members. We didn't
Yeah.
travel a lot. After we moved to Florida, we really didn't travel anywhere. So that was also like we didn't have a lot of connection to other family that lived in different states. Like we didn't travel like a lot of my friends did. And I think growing up that I didn't really think about it much, but I also kind of longed for that like big celebration. But even now, like I know when we'll go to like family gatherings at your house and a lot of your family comes, it's a little weird for me because I'm not used to that.
Hmm.
I'm so used to it just being like my tiny family, or really just even when I was in college, it was just me. There were some like Thanksgivings I spent alone in college because I had to work because I was working retail. And that's when like adulthood set in for me because I was like, oh, this is, I have to do this. So I can't go see my family. And now it's more of like I can't go see my family because I don't have the money to see my family because plane ticket to Florida is pretty expensive. Or even if we drove there, it'd be so much in gas, and like I don't have that money to spare, um, which is sad. But it's yeah, it's just I find myself like just nostalgic for the days where even though my Christmases I don't think were like great in all aspects as a kid, I do miss like the how I wasn't worried about the things that I'm worried about now. And like
Yeah.
this, it makes the holiday season super hard. So I like when thinking about like seasonal depression, like I just have depression all year long, but um I can definitely see why this is a hard time for people. I know that some people are dealing with loss. We just went
Yeah.
to your cousin's like 1 year memorial, and that's something that you have to deal with. I had a friend when I was in eighth grade pass away like a week before Christmas. So our anniversary is December 19th, and that's always sad to think about. And so when you're dealing with loss or dealing with grief of any kind, like even if it's not grieving like people who actually like have passed on, but just grieving relationships and
Hmm.
um what was, it can be very difficult. And I don't think that we talk about that much. I think people just gloss over like the holidays are so fun, they're so great, but it's also like so
I mean,
stressful.
I mean, there's so many different angles you can approach I mean, the holidays, right? For November. I mean, I would probably say we'd probably agree here that, Thanksgiving is kind of the kickoff, or even after.
I feel
right
like
after
the
October,
holidays start now.
right
Yeah,
after
like
right after Halloween.
November to December,
Yeah.
November and all of December. That's the
That's
holiday
yeah.
season.
I would say right after Halloween you can start playing Christmas music, and
Yeah.
you know it's.
Some people might not agree. Some people
Yeah.
might be like, you can't play Christmas music till December. But I agree because like people said like Thanksgiving is like one day. Christmas is like 2 months because like you just plan like the entire time you're just like waiting for Christmas. And you know there's Christmas parties, Christmas festivities. And I think that's the other thing too. Not to be like a little glum plum here.
Glum plum.
But you know when I think about Christmas parties, I did have like really I would say some of my best most recent Christmas memories were when I was in college. Me and my friends that I worked with would always do like a Secret Santa before we went home for the holidays. And it was, well, actually, we kind of all just got gifts for each other. Like, one year we did Secret Santa, and next year we all just bought gifts for each other. And we did it at my apartment, and it was just so nice. And, like, we all, like, I always looked forward to buying my friends the gift because I, like, can't wait to see, like, the expression when they open it. And it's just the best feeling in the world. And those are some of, like, my best memories. But that's probably like the only Christmas tradition I've ever really been a part of. I know some people do Christmas parties, and I mean I've never been a part of that. So
when you used to work for Target, you know, Target jar here, did you never had Christmas parties?
No, it's retail. You know, that's our busiest. That's hard.
No,
that
I mean,
was our busiest season.
No, I mean not obviously like internal, but like your other, you know, your fellow at the time, like coworkers, you know, nobody's like, hey, I'm gonna have a party at this, you know, my apartment or whatever it was, you know.
I mean, we were all college students, so
yeah,
like,
that's true.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Because I did stuff with my coworkers that I was friends with. Like we did like our own like get together. It was really fun. But like other than that, we never really did anything. And then we'd go home, and I'd just be like at my house and like, you know.
That was one thing I do remember. Man, it's been a while. Like 2018, 2019-ish. We would have the Friendsgiving thing, like with like all of our old friends and stuff like that.
That's something I've always wanted to be a part of.
Yeah, it was cool.
I only ever did like one Friendsgiving, and it made me like, yeah.
Made you sad?
No, it didn't make me sad, but like I've only ever been a part of like, I've only ever been a part of one thing, and like I've been saying that like on like TikTok too, and I'm like, oh, like I don't have a huge group of friends here, and like I would love to do something like that, but like all of my friends are like so spread apart. I was literally just talking to, honestly, this person is like one of my best friends now, Alyssa. I feel like you knew I was gonna say her name.
I knew it.
But she's one of my coworkers. I feel like I was telling her, I was like, why God, why do you put such a great person like across the world? Because she lives in Michigan, and like she's one person that I would all love to like do something like that with, and like yeah, I was like, but all my friends are so spread apart. Like, Laura lives in Miami. Spencer and Roman live in Georgia. Yeah. A lot of people are in Florida, like Anaya and Molly. Yeah, and like, I'm like, I mean, I did this myself. I moved across the country, but yeah, it's like, when you have like your friends, you guys are all, I think the other thing is like you're all starting to live your own separate lives, and that's a very hard transition. I think we've talked about it before. It's a very hard transition when you're going from college into like, you know, what they consider real life is everyone goes their separate ways, and it makes it hard to continue to connect with each other. Obviously you could talk on the phone and stuff, but nothing beats like sitting down and having a coffee with someone. Like I just honestly, like Alyssa's talking about coming in January. We'll do like a birthday celebration for me, and I'm like, that'll be such a great time because like we're such good friends and we've never met in person.
Yeah.
Ever. We've just met through work, and I'm like, this is so wild, the world that we live in.
I think it's like a modern day pen pal, you know.
Yeah, she's my pen pal.
Basically, you know, that's what's interesting because I remember like growing up as a kid, like I had friends in elementary school. I was like, yeah, I have a pen pal there.
I
like,
think I had one at one point.
And I forget how there's a way you can, not to say you sign up for these things, like there's like online form or something like that, but it was like you would have like a pen pal from across the world, like, oh, I have a pen pal in India, and like you would send each other letters.
That's something I want to bring back, is just sending letters.
Yeah.
I think that's such a nice thing. It's so off topic, but that's something I would love to do, is just to write letters to my friends.
I don't think it's off topic at all because, like, you know, I think that especially this time of year where, you know, people get sad, right? We're talking about being sad.
Being sad.
And it's, I mean, a letter could, imagine somebody
getting like an unexpected letter, and they're like, oh, someone cares.
It's handwritten. You
That's
know,
so sweet.
it is like, especially if you didn't tell them, oh, I'm sending you a letter. It's like it's different when you look in your mailbox and you're like, what, addressed to
And
me?
you won't. Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
so funny. Caesar says that because we get the mail. Like we'll go at like 4 o'clock on a walk. Like, oh, let's get the mail too. And I'm always like so sad when there's nothing for me. I mean, most of it sometimes there is, but it's just bills. But I'm like, I just want like a letter, like something I'm not expecting. It's so nice when you get like a
Yeah,
simple
it's just
thing.
letter, like, or whatever, even a little package, a little card, like when your manager Douglas sent you
Wine.
wine and like a
It
card
was
too. He
really
sent you a
nice.
card and
Yeah.
a book, I think. He sent you a book
Yeah.
recently.
And I was like, those are such
Yeah, it's so
nice things
cool.
because I wasn't expecting them. And yeah, it's just like those little things that can brighten someone's day, and you don't know how much they'll brighten
Yeah.
someone's day. Those little things really, really mean a lot
Hmm.
to me. Yeah, it's just interesting during these holiday seasons, just how they change. And some people are like having like my sister has her own little family now. She's got
Yeah.
Jezebel,
Growing family.
and like that's even that makes it so different. I know like my sister is focused on trying to give her like everything that like we didn't have, and it's not bad that we didn't have those things, but she obviously wants to do better. Every parent aims to do better than what they were given, and Leanna wants to do the same. And I think there's another stress about that too when I think about like having kids. Like I want to have kids one day, and it also stresses me out because I'm like, I want to make sure I want to make sure they never feel like how I feel. And I know some of the things that I feel are not because of other people, but also just because of like personal battles I'm dealing with. But the idea of trying to make sure that doesn't happen, that's stressful, And yeah, I feel like things are just amplified. I have found myself very just down in the dumps lately during this like time because it's just different when you're an adult.
Yeah, no, it definitely
You
is.
just don't like,
Yeah.
and you're like, man, I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back to being a kid, even if things weren't like ideal then too. It's just things are there's so many more stresses that you have to deal with it, and you think about the days where you didn't even have these cares.
It would be cool to just like spend a day back in those shoes. But then I
Yeah.
think about like all the other possibilities of like I think you'd end up getting bored of it sooner or later if you could travel back and just spend like a week or two to be like, oh, I kind of want to get back to like what I was
Well,
doing.
I also remember being like younger and not being able to wait until like I turned a certain age, like till I turned 16, till I turned 18, because it felt like there were so many barriers
Yeah.
at that age. And now I'm like, man, everything wasn't easy back then, but in a way it was. In a way it was like, there's always going to be stresses in your life. There's always going to be things that are difficult. But when you're looking back and reflecting, you're like, I'd much rather be dealing with that right there than what I'm
yeah.
currently dealing with. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's also sad because, like I said, I haven't spent my like Christmas or Thanksgiving with my like mom in a long time. And that's just, it's weird,
Yeah.
And like when you're adult, it's just I don't know. It's just I don't know how to describe it. And I feel like obviously you don't really know because like I mean your parents live here
Yeah.
and like we're not away from your parents. But like yeah, it's just different. But I'm also someone too that who's like so focused on being okay by myself.
Yeah. That's what's kind of funny
It's
about.
contradictory.
Yeah, it's contradictory because you want to do your own thing. We talk about always like, we're going to have our own place, like whether it's here, a different state, or whatever the case is. But then you still need to find friends wherever it is you go, or create community, or join a community, or whatever the case is. But then you're still going to have that longing for like your parents or your sister or your other family or whatever the case is. There's still that longing for like for either them to care or you to care or whatever it is, right? So it's and that's why it's like I don't think it's that you want to be alone. I don't think that's that we want to be alone. It's that you want to create something on your own and be like,
Yeah, I think I was talking to you about this the other day. Is part of the reason that I want to be successful in this life and whatever my idea of success is. Part of the reason why I want to do what I do is obviously for me and like the goals that I have, but it's also because I want to be able to take care of those around me, and that means like giving my parents everything that they gave to me, and that creates another like stress, like another like overwhelming pressure
Hmm.
to be somebody, to do something with my life, to make sure I reach certain goals, because if I don't, I can't take care of the people I love and the people that I have like seen work their asses off their entire life. And like also like personally, I feel like in my family I've just watched my parents struggle and like not catch a break like ever. And so there's this like feeling as like I think a daughter where I'm like I want to be able to give back and currently can't, and like so it's almost like you want to distance yourself until you can do everything you want to for them. And I know it doesn't really make sense, but that's kind of how I feel. Like it's just I want to be able to give
I
everything to
think I
them.
think most people, well, I mean, those of us that have parents, um, or even grandparents too, because some people like were raised by their grandparents,
Yeah.
whatever the case is. But yeah, like they want to provide for them. I mean, I was thinking, I mean, I always have like metaphorical, not metaphorical, or hypothetical stories in my mind all the time. Like, what if I did this and then I came across this, or like, or what would I do? And like most recently was like, man, like every time the lottery comes up and it goes over $1 billion, like everyone, it's like a trending thing to like
Yeah.
talk about. Like, what would you do if like you won the lottery? What would you do if you
It's
won
like
the
the episode of The
lottery?
Office when they're talking about like, the warehouse wins the
Oh
lottery, so then they're
yeah, you're
gonna
right. That's
play the
true.
lottery.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And yeah, I think about that sometimes, and I think about like the statistics behind most lottery winners. All these things come in my head, like because of this information that I've learned. But I would definitely like, I would honestly want to keep not all of it, but just enough to like create like generational wealth, and then like the rest I would just give away. I have no reason to have. No, I don't think. I mean, it's a shit. It's a crap ton of money. So
No,
it's
I
like
get that too, but I think
even after if you do the bulk,
my dad always says this. And I think it's true. I've experienced this in my young adult life when, starting to get like understand finances and the way money works. Making your own money is when you have it truly is more money, more problems. Because when we
Oh,
tend to
that's
make
yeah.
more money, we also tend to upgrade our lifestyles, which is where most people go wrong. Is like, I have this much money now, so I'm gonna live a certain life. Whereas you obviously retain more money if you live the same life with that money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's why like the hypothetical is like, oh, I would just do this. It's much easier like
Said
said
than
than
done,
done because
yeah.
you never know. You never know if you're gonna like how you will react in that situation. You might react differently. I also think about like my sister, and like I've definitely grown closer to my sister, and I want to be able to help her should anything happen, should anything she need anything. I want to be able to help her, and I'm not in that position right now, and I think that's I'm just a worrisome person.
Hmm.
And like even more so during the holidays because I want to be able to give people everything. And like I know like gifts are like literally just a materialistic thing, but at the same time I do want people to know that I care about them and I love them despite like maybe not being able to be there. And like I know there's other ways to do it, but um it just sucks. Like I've always seen like I think I grew up too like where I had social media and like I'd see people posting like what they got on Instagram, and you start to also feel like, man, like we're not in the same tax bracket. You know
We're
what I
not saying. I
mean?
know I get you. Yeah, that's funny.
Like and like as like a kid, you care about those materialistic things, and you start to feel like, oh man, like we don't have money, which is like we had money. Me and my family had money, just not money to be like extravagant.
Hmm.
Like to get some of the things that like my friends had, and um yeah, and then as an adult, you're like, oh shit, like looking back, like I didn't need some of the things that I had,
No,
or
yeah.
I didn't
Looking back at it,
appreciate some of
yeah.
those things that I
Hmm.
had, or like I completely destroyed some of
No,
the
it's true.
things that you
It's
had.
funny that you bring that up, but it's what I start to remember when you were talking about sad the seasonal what is it called?
It's like seasonal affective
Fed
disorder or
disorder.
something like that.
Um, I started thinking about like things that like we would get on the holidays, whether it was like presents or like or whatever the case was, just hanging out with family. That was probably honestly That's probably one of the biggest presents. But like one of the most like memorable things is just hanging out on the holidays with like everyone. Even those of us in my family who have like passed away. So like that's like those are things that you can't that are obviously immaterial because they're not
Yeah,
like
you can't
physical.
replace
You
those.
can't replace those, but it's just like those are the things that I long for, for us to all have, to hang around a whether it's a hanging around bonfire,
I love a good
eating
bonfire.
tamales,
It's funny
things
that you
like that.
mentioned that too, is because one of like the holiday traditions that we had that went on the longest was we used to pick out our Christmas tree every year on December 10th. No matter like what my mom was doing, she'd get home from work and we'd go to like, wherever place. So
And it was
like
a real Christmas tree,
real
right? Real
Christmas
Christmas tree,
trees.
not
I
plastic.
hate those freaking fake Christmas trees. And honestly, if we could have if no one would let us have a real Christmas tree, because we live with Caesar's brother, just to let you know, we aren't living a lavish life,
Yeah.
guys. We literally live with Caesar's brother, because it's expensive out here. But we would go pick out a real Christmas tree, and then we would go home. They put it on top of the car. We'd go home and we would decorate it. And we'd take out all the Christmas decorations, the countdowns to Christmas. We'd decorate the tree, and we had all these ornaments. A lot of the ornaments that we had like sentimental value. Like, were crafts that me and my sister, my brother made. My mom loved doing crafts as a kid with us. And like looking at all of that, it was like such a like nostalgic time. And eventually we stopped doing that, like eventually, the date changed, or
Something came up.
something came
Yeah.
up, and it
Yeah.
it just made things like so sad.
Yeah.
But it
I
was
know
something
that
that we
feeling.
like
Yeah.
looked forward to. We always like, yeah, we're gonna go get a Christmas tree, and I love the smell of Christmas trees. And I think as a parent too, like when you see your parents like stressing out about like just that kind of stuff too, like wanting to make sure that they can give you everything, like it becomes real too, that like the holiday season for some people is more stressful than it is actually happy. And that was something that I realized like as probably sooner than I wish I did.
Yeah, and the fact that you bring that up is one of the reasons why like I think this time of year is like brings on sadness for most people, and oftentimes I believe it's January. I think it's January. Yeah, January I think is like suicide prevention month, I believe. Because of after the holidays, all of that stress, like whether it's financial, family stuff, like people like they do that, and it's like that's one of the months where like people say connect with your family or connect with people because of you don't know what everyone has their own
Battle that they're
battle
going through.
yeah they're going through, so you don't obviously don't know, so it's just being there with one another or whatnot, so
Yeah.
yeah, not to get too sad here, but yeah.
Not to get too sad.
Yeah.
I think it's also something I wanted to bring up because I think this has something to do with it too, is like not everyone has great relationships with family or certain family members, and it can make holidays hard, whether if you have to spend time with those people or like it makes you not look forward to things. It makes you uncomfortable, and it like furthers like whatever feelings you're already having about this holiday season. And I think we've talked about this before, like there's people who see family as family, and I do think we're born with a family, like we're born into a family, but I also think everyone deserves people who care about them. And I think this year a lot of for me a lot of negative and sad emotions are tied to this time of year because of years past, and like certain people I don't necessarily like choose to associate with or have in my life. And it doesn't, like, people think that like when you decide that you don't want someone in your life, or that you can't have that person in your life for your own personal well-being, that it's this easy process, that's like, oh yeah, cut ties, everything's better. But I think you of all people and me of all people know that it's really not that seamless of a process, because every day I'm still thinking about those people, and I'm still thinking about how I feel and how sad I am, and like, kind of grieving the loss of someone that isn't gone, but they're just not someone I can have in my life in the way that is going to be helpful to what I'm trying to do. And that's sad for me because I love family and I love connecting with people, and I want this to be a great time. And I think for me it's just been hard to like turn everything positive, and I think that's also so frustrating to me because I want to be such a positive person, but I'm also so sad. Like, my name is Sunny, but I feel like I am so sad all the time, and it's so hard to deal with those emotions.
I mean,
It
just
makes me sad just thinking about it. Oh my god.
yeah, no, it's just and those are those things, right? That I was literally just talking about. Like everyone has their own battles, you know. Either I imagine there's people that I haven't talked to in a long time, and they have their own things they're going through too as well. Not everything is sunshine and rainbows from the outside, you know. And we all wish it would be that way, where everything's like perfectly okay, but there's always going to be.
Well, it might look like things are sunshine and rainbows. You never know.
Oh yes,
like,
yeah.
I feel like there's always like some facade to like put on that things are great and things are fine. But I think it is like we post this podcast. It's these are like love, and I love to do this stuff, but we don't post when we're like arguing during setup or like we're
The technical difficulties, all these
or
things,
dealing with like our own stuff, like just it's way easier to talk about the good because I mean I have this like I want to shed light on the things that are not so great and that we should be talking about despite the nature of the talk, but at the same time I want to be a positive person. It's like those things are so two different sides of the spectrum, and trying to do both is like and I think also sometimes when you post like really sad like people are like, this person just wants attention, they just
I was literally gonna bring that up. That was my next
really
thing is
same wavelength.
well no, it's just that I mean the internet's it's algorithmic, platforms have their own algorithm. So if you see this a lot on TikTok, which is why I was bringing up the other day, not on a podcast but in person, like how Sunny's like on sad girl TikTok all the time.
I'm literally sad girl TikTok is me.
And it has to do with the fact that how the algorithm works is like, not to say I know how TikTok works, but any algorithm like will feed you things that you have, reacted to with the most or you relate with the most. So if you're feeling a certain way, or if your life is a certain, not to say if your life's a certain way, but you're obviously going to be fed that content all the time. But so when someone that maybe isn't feeling sad, or they don't like to associate themselves with depression or whatever the case is, because there's people out there that think it's whether it's made up or it's in their head, there's a lot of science that supports either or actually. So it all depends on what you read at this point. But yeah, if someone sees something, like they're just trying to get attention or whatever it is, like I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time, it's probably not. Like, because you can see right through that, whether there's someone that's just doing it just for the attention.
But I think also it's not for one, it's not for us to judge.
Yeah, that too,
also,
obviously.
Like, I relate to the people who are very like authentic and like posting something that's not easy to post.
And that's what people like.
And like, because it shows that like someone else feels exactly like I feel. Someone else is dealing with these exact emotions, and while it doesn't make you feel any better, it definitely makes you feel like obviously you're not alone.
Yeah.
Someone else, because I think a lot of times when we're going through these feelings, and probably too who experience it specifically just during the holiday season, you can feel like, man, am I the only one feeling like this? Am I the only one? Like, and it can make you feel like you're crazy. It can make you like feel just completely just different from everyone, because you're like, everyone's having such a good time, why am I not? And to see someone else going through the same thing is kind of relieving, because you're not alone, and that
could really help someone too.
Yeah, like knowing you're not alone is a huge thing. And I think during the holidays, I think we feel like a sense of like loneliness too, because it's supposed to be a time to like rejoice with family and to like have like such a great time. And for those of us that aren't getting able to do so, it can feel like very isolated. I remember being in Tallahassee for like Thanksgiving, like my first year where I had to stay in Tallahassee was when I worked at, it was my sophomore year of college. I worked at Kohl's and I had to work on Black Friday. I had to work on like the Thursday and the Black Friday. And it was very like isolating. I was like, I don't like this. I didn't have a Thanksgiving dinner. My roommates weren't in town. Like, it was so incredibly sad. I'm like, I hate this. And like, I spent the Thanksgiving break like working, and I was like, this is awful. I was like, who would ever want to do this? And I think that's honestly one thing I just like hated about retail in general is now some retail stores after millions of years are closed on like Thanksgiving. But I'd get so many people when I worked at Kohl's or when I worked at Target like, oh, you have to work on this day. I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm working because you're here. You want to shop. This is why we are open. It's because of you. So don't apologize. It's your fault. Like it was so funny. I'm like, the whole reason we're here is because everyone wants these freaking deals. But they'd be like, oh, I wish you could be home with your family. Yeah, me too. Me too. I really wish I could be. But here I am at 18 having to freaking work here because you want to shop. Yeah, and it just makes you sad. It makes you so like, it was just so incredibly isolating. And
Yeah.
there was nothing you could do to fix it. I mean, I tried to make a ham one year. And I was like, I'll make myself a little Thanksgiving dinner. But it's just not the same, too. Like, it's very different. Or, like, we had tamales at your mom's house the other day.
So good.
And I'm like, that's now, like, a signal of, like, the Christmas winter season, you know. And it's great. They're delicious.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's just, everything's different when you're an adult. And no one can really prepare you for that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think anything. And I don't think, and even if you could, like, again, we talked about it before, if you can, your future self can come back and tell you, like, it's still not going to be enough to prepare you. You still have to live and go through those difficult times. The sad, the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, like all of that. You know, there's a reason why we live in a world and in a universe where there's seasons, you know, the Earth's a really, you know, the planet we live on, right? Not to get too, metaphysical here, but yeah, like there's seasons, right? And in our own lives, there are seasons too as well. Like some may be living through a sadder part of their life right now, but I really do believe that there's another side to that where it gets good again, you know? And that's why, like, obviously this episode was about sad, you know, about the seasonal affectiveness disorder.
Well, it's like seasonal.
Yeah.
It's called seasonal depression, but it's also like, you know, just loneliness during the holidays. And like,
yeah,
I think you're right though. You know, we do go through seasons in our life, and I think the hardest part when we're going through like a difficult season or a part of our life is it can feel like it's never gonna end. You can't see like where the grass is greener. You can't see the light at the end of the tunnel sometimes until like you've already made it out and you're looking back.
And then you're looking back,
you know?
yeah. You're like,
so,
wait, what?
I'm trying to be better about, there's so many things upsetting me right now. So many things in my life upsetting me right now, but I'm trying to find something to look forward to. Like, I think as long as you have something to look forward to, or like even the tiniest of things, I think that makes it,
that does make a big difference.
a little bit, whether it's like a event or just some time to yourself or just something that you like doing, you know. I think as long as you have something to look forward to, it makes things a little bit more bearable. I know I'm reflecting on like things Caesar and I have done in the past, something that we like to do. I feel like we've kind of made it a tradition, like not even trying to, is every year that it snows on the mountain, we usually find a day that it snows that we can go up to the mountain and like see the snowfall and be there. And we usually
time it though, because
you
like
gotta time it really right.
Yeah, because you don't want to get there too late.
Last year we went
early.
on Christmas Eve at 5 a.m. We drove to Mount Charleston. It was like dark out. It was snowing, really a lot of snow. It was magical because it was like the day before Christmas, and then we went back down to the lodge to have breakfast, and it was just me and Caesar, and it was probably one of like my favorite, most beautiful moments.
And it
Was
was,
just
and
like
we're kind of alone
simple.
up there too.
Yeah,
Think about it.
like no
Yeah,
one
no
is
one
up
was
there
up there.
yet. It was just
Yeah.
Caesar, and like it's the whole reason I bought a Jeep. Like I have like a Jeep Compass, and it's 4-wheel drive just for the snow, just so I can go to the snow, and yeah, I was like, it was just peaceful, and like we like seeing the snowfall. It felt like we were in a whole different universe, and it was absolutely incredible. But like every year we usually go to go see the snow, like not on the same day but during the season. It's something that I always look forward to because it just makes me feel like all warm and fuzzy despite it being so cold. It's just nice that Caesar and I do, and makes me feel not as sad.
Not as sad.
Caesar's always having to deal with my sadness.
It's like I remember when you had me watch that movie, Inside Out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's like those different emotions. We
It
made a
was
whole
like,
thing
I'm
about
positive
this,
that this is not gonna work out. She was like, you gotta be more positive. I'm positive this won't work. Yeah, well, I think it's like Caesar knows. Like Caesar knows who I am, like inside and out, I would say. He's seen the very ugly parts of me. And
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just looked to the
it's like
side.
I thought you were going, yeah.
Yeah. My neck.
But I think that like still like it's me and him are so different. Caesar's I feel like a little bunny, like a little probably not the most manly thing to compare you to, but like you're just happy like most of the time. You have a very good spirit, and as much as I try to, I'm like just sad. I don't know how to describe it. Just like
Just down in the dumps.
yeah, and like I think it's hard too when people see you as otherwise. I feel like I have to like be this person who's happy because my name is Sunny, and you gotta be Sunny because your name is Sunny. But I think the reality is just a little bit bleaker. It's just like we've been saying, I'm just going through a lot right now, and it's very some days it's very hard to be like the person that you want to be. Like every day, like you wake up, you put your feet on the ground, and you should think to yourself like, hey, today's gonna be a good day, and I'm gonna make it a good day. But there are so many things that you can't control, and you sometimes don't know what's gonna upset you. And I am a very I would say high strung person, and I'm trying to get like looser, like just not be so worried and stuff. But one thing can like just completely make me upset. Like something that might seem so small can just be like change the trajectory of my day, and I'm trying to change that, but it's very hard because it's not like a night and day thing.
Yeah, some days I know that you're better at it, but then there's other days where you're just like, yeah, like
Where I'm
one
like,
thing.
this man.
No, it's like more. It's more of just like, not to say you just give up on the day. It's more of like you're letting something that you can't control
Yeah.
your day or your week or your month.
It's letting my emotions like control me and like dictate like how my day is gonna go. And I think the more you become aware of it, the easier it gets. But even when you are aware, sometimes you can't understand where that feeling is coming from. Like whether it's a conversation I have with coworker, like just
Or something that happens,
yeah, something that
Yeah.
happens at work that I wasn't planning for. I think something that is interesting about me too is that I can deal with change. I would say I'm pretty good at dealing with change. I am also someone that likes things to go according to plan. So like I can have like my plan and my schedule for the day of like this is what I'm gonna do, and then something comes up and it's like that makes everything just a little bit more difficult, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do now? And it just stresses you out, and you just don't feel like as motivated or like as good as you did before. And I think that's things that I'm still trying to deal with, because like to be successful, well, it feels like to be successful in any career, you've got to be able to do that. So like, and also these are things that like I don't do like where other people can see. Like I will be like, okay, yeah, gonna get it done, and then like internally I'm like screaming Like I try not to show a lot of like what I'm feeling, but internally a lot like I'm screaming because I'm like, this is just awful. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking of a time though where I felt that similar emotion when like you had a plan, you know. I think a lot of us, like a lot of you that are listening, probably have felt very similar to that, where you have something planned out, you know exactly how it's gonna go, and then like stuff gets thrown sideways or something breaks, something doesn't work, doesn't go the way that you wanted it planned, and now you have to like maneuver yourself to get it done.
I
Or if you,
think that you're more like go with the flow though. Like there's some people who are just like, oh, like we'll figure it out. Like, oh, like this is okay. And like I'm so not that person. There's like this meme on TikTok. It's like, oh, like, yeah, I'm gonna go with the flow, but what time does the flow start? And like that's me. It's like
you
what
need to know what time
like
the flow starts.
like it's just in my personality, and I know I get it from my mom because my mom is so much like that. So many of these things I get from my mom, and not a bad thing, you know. A lot of those traits can also be good when you flip them around too. You know, like I'm not usually late to things. Like I used to show up 30 minutes early for work, and my manager would be like, "You're here." I was like, "Yeah," because I have
That was me. My bad.
oh, I was like,
Yeah, that was
I have an intense fear of being late. So, I was like, yeah, at least if I know I'm here, I'm not gonna be late. So like she'd just be like, I'm just sitting there at work, and obviously now I can't really be late to work either because I work from home. But, yeah, it's so that's a good thing. But at the same time, it's like some people are like, you need to. My sister's like the exact opposite usually. Like for the most part. I mean, some of them we have similar traits, but she's like a go with the flow person, and I think that's why we argued so much as kids. Because I'm like, you were so freaking crazy, Rihanna. We're very different. But
we'll have to have. It'd be really cool one day to have her actually like here, like in person on the podcast.
one day.
So we did one before with her, but yeah.
It's funny though because people see us and they're like, you would assume that we're so similar, but we're really just so different in personality. Like what bothers me might not bother Rihanna. Like, which is also frustrating when you're talking to someone. You're like, when you say something that's you're bothered by,
Yeah.
and then like, oh, well, that wouldn't really bother me. I'm like, okay, well, it bothers me. Like it don't care if it bothers you. It bothers me. But yeah, little off topic of what a conversation.
No,
was,
I think it all has to do with
it's all connected.
It's all connected. It's all connected. But yeah, it all has to do with managing your not managing your emotions, but just this time of year, just being cognizant of other people, yourself, your own feelings, your own emotions, things you're going through. Like there's things that we can't control that are out of our control, and we just have to let them be. That's how I look at things. For the most part. But yeah, I mean, just you got to continue to work towards something. Like you did have a really good point there. You have to have something you have to work towards, or else like you get down in the dumps and you're just like, what is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? I think that's a lot of people can feel that this time of year.
Yeah.
Like, what is the meaning of this all? And unfortunately, it's very hard to find the answer. I've yet to find it. I think we find our own answers, though. Like I've made a LinkedIn post because I'm a LinkedIn baddie.
Every time you say that.
No, I love LinkedIn. Very interesting perspectives on there sometimes. But I made a LinkedIn post about I work in SEO, and it cannot always be an easy job because you can do everything right and it just doesn't work. But when it does, it's so cool to see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not sure that my purpose on this earth was to be an SEO goddess, as they call me where I work. Earned that title. But I'm pretty good at it, and I think that's cool. Is like I'm always looking for maybe this isn't maybe this is my purpose, maybe it isn't, but I'm very good at this and I like doing this, and we'll figure out more along the way. And I just think that's what we need to be doing. It's it's not about figuring everything out now, but I think figuring out in small portions, which is difficult for people like me who want to have everything figured out. But if you can start to just connect puzzle pieces, eventually you'll get there.
Yeah.
And I think our lives are just ginormous puzzles, and sometimes we're trying to jam a piece where it doesn't belong, and it's trial and error. Yeah, you can't force it. And sometimes we have these periods in our life that we don't necessarily agree with or we don't like. And unfortunately, it's part of life. Unfortunately, we'll have all these trials and tribulations. And during those, you feel like nothing is ever going to get better. You're like, when, man, who is writing my story up there? But I think it does. As like sad as I get sometimes, I think it does get better. And like that's the hope that you can hold on to. Is like I think that's one thing you should never lose hope in, that things are going to get better, because we do have control of some things in our lives. And so control what you can. Do what you can to be a better person. Do what you can to get to where you want to go, or do what you can to find out where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And there are so many different pieces that you have to connect, and it's not easy at all. It's not. Like, some people might say, oh, you just do this. Like, I see a lot of videos like, oh, you just do X, Y, and Z, and then like, ba-bam, $6 million. But it's not like that. I don't think anything in life is like that. That's my personal opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Again,
No, I mean, I would
no expert, but you can
say,
get so many videos. Literally, sorry, let me just go on a tangent here. I saw a girl and I related this so heavily because I'm a marketer, and she was like, everyone will put all these hacks like, oh, gain 6 million followers overnight using these 3 tips. And it's like, but no one actually takes like the whole marketing strategy into account. They're usually just giving you a portion, and that is so frustrating because there's so much other work that goes into that kind of stuff. And I think that's what's being like portrayed online in all aspects, whether you're talking about social media growth, personal growth. It's like people giving one portion to the puzzle without like the context of like everything else you need to do. So it makes people gives people false hope, because they're like, why isn't this working as well? Because there's other pieces too.
Yeah, no, it's like telling someone, we're kind of in like the marketing, not in the marketing space, but like in the creative, video online content space. And some people will be like, yeah, it's easy to start a YouTube channel. Like anybody can start one up. But there's different things that are involved with YouTube itself. And like, what are you trying to do what are you trying to pursue on YouTube? There's just so much that goes on into even just the platform itself. Us posting this, this long form content on YouTube, in order for it to actually reach people that we want, that we hope, can listen to our message. Yeah, it resonates with. There's some people that they do take off because of who, like, they're a character, they're a caricature, or they're just unique in a way that resonates with a lot of people. I not to say that, obviously I think we're pretty unique. We're you're Sunny and I'm Caesar, but
I'm glad you pointed that out. They might have thought you're Sunny, I'm Caesar.
I don't know if the letters tell them anything about this, but and it's just like you can get into the whole psychographics of like, who you're trying to target, like how is your age a reason that you're, that you're taking off because you're young or whatever the case is. There's so much that goes on in the back end.
It's impossible. Sometimes it's impossible to pinpoint like why someone's successful.
Yeah.
There's so many things that go into it. Like you can't say, oh, this is what I did right, because it's like, I always tell you that because I'm like, oh, like I think this, you'll be like, I think this video did good because of X. I'm like, but it also could have been like these 3 other things, or like a combination of them. So you should never like assume, because you know what assuming does?
Makes an ass
out of you and I, you and me. Yeah. So just don't assume. But I think with that being said, I think this is a good conversation. I think that's what Caesar and I are trying to do here, is just have great conversation, great open, vulnerable conversation that people aren't talking about as much, or maybe they are, but we just have a different take. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just want to have these conversations. I enjoy having these conversations with Caesar. I feel like this is like the whole of our relationship. It's like we have a lot of these conversations off camera too. I should just like mic myself up and have conversations with Caesar so you guys can hear like everything he has to say, because I think he's just incredible. Like the conversation at Panera, but anyways. Oh yeah, we had a very interesting conversation at Panera yesterday. But yeah, if you've made it to the end of this episode, we appreciate every single one of you. All of our, I think we have like 87 subscribers now. Yeah, almost at 100. Almost at 100. So if you can, please like, subscribe to our channel, Turn on notifications for our videos. We love every single one of you. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any podcast platform, please set up automatic downloads. Leave us a review. It's super important. It'll help us continue to grow, and that's what this podcast is about. It's about us growing, and not just online, but Caesar and I want to grow with you guys. Growing together doesn't just mean Caesar and I. It means growing with all of you, and sharing our wins and sharing our losses and sharing the very hard parts of growth, because it's not an easy journey, as we've learned.
Yeah.
But if we're dealing with, these sad, negative thoughts during this holiday season, or, just dealing with the fact that it's not the same as it once was, please don't feel like you're alone. There are people out there feeling like that, and if you ever want to reach out to one of us,
DM
I'll
us,
answer.
leave a comment.
I'm literally so willing to talk to all of you guys. Yeah, it gets better.
It does.
It does. So
You're not alone.
he's like, you're not alone.
You're not alone.
Yeah. So this has been Growing Together with me, Sunny Vasquez.
And me, Cesar Santos.
We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you again next week.
See you guys later.